Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is to take a look at starting a collection for a ranked beginner, somebody who's just starting off. They don't want to spend a lot of money, so I put together some types of watches I think that would go well into sort of a broader collection, not too broad, but broad enough. All of them under $1,000 or under €1,000 or 1,000 Swiss francs or pounds or whatever amounts about that amount. But first of all, let me say something about the markets where you can get your watches. Generally, there are three that are identified. I think the naive collector, they're told about AD. That's the best place to go because they're honest. Well, some are, some aren't, just like everything else. Then they call the gray market. Well, the gray market sounds one step away from the black market. That's sort of is implied that it's criminal. The gray market is something else, and I'll talk about that too. It's not well named, believe me. And finally, there's a criminal element where they have stolen watches or fake watches. We won't talk about them. I mean, we're not, it's just, they're there, but we're not going to even consider buying from them. Now, instead of looking at the AD is part of what is really the primary market. And these are markets where they go from the manufacturer to somebody who sells them. They could go through a distribution system or any number of other things like that. But the primary market, you have the manufacturer, and now manufacturers are selling through their websites or their boutiques. A boutique is a store, they have a specialized store. A good example of a website, if you go to the Omega website, you can buy directly from Omega. Nobody in between. Some companies you can only get their watches at their brand boutique. For example, FP Journe. They have very few boutiques, and they got a waiting list literally years long, to get one of their watches. Okay, you're going to pay full price at either one of them, are they what's called MSRP, unless one or the other has some kind of special deal. Then another one in the primary market is called the authorized dealer, and this is some guy or some gal, I guess, who has a store or shop something, or have an online facility where where the manufacturer will send them watches to be sold under certain circumstances. For example, somebody with a contract who's an AD for Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe is very strict about what they can sell their watches for and so forth. So they're going to, in other words, if you buy it there, you're going to get it, you're going to be paying the full price unless you get it used, but that's another market. Also, authorized dealers often have websites, and so that's another large and very big market. They also, of course, they have new and used watches as well at the authorized dealers. Now, instead of calling it the gray market, which is a total misnomer, and sort of like if you're a beginner, raise your hand and say gray market. It's not. It's a secondary market. It's very important for the manufacturers. The manufacturers have watches they simply can't sell, or a store or anybody who has watches that they can't sell at the manufacturer's suggested price. They can always sell them to the secondary market, and the secondary market can charge whatever they want. And so in this way, the manufacturers can maintain really what it amounts to is a fiction that they only can get it at the full manufacturer's price. Well, that's not true. Secondary market, you can get your best deals there, I think. Now, you also have the pre-owned market, and a lot of your secondary markets specialize in used watches. They have online shops as well as brick and mortar. A big one in Philadelphia is called Govberg. They also have, oh boy, I can always forget. They also have an online version of Govberg called something else that you can buy your watches there. The biggest one, one of the best known ones, is Chrono 24. And Chrono 24 is basically for buying and selling watches. If you have one to sell, you can take it to them or you can buy them. Now, sometimes they have brand new watches. In fact, they can be a manufacturer's, especially a smaller one, they can have a special deal with them where they'll sell it or try to sell it at full price. Another source of that for a smaller, even smaller ones, and more economical ones often is eBay. So these are all places that are part of the secondary market, and I think they're all important because it's either that or you use your watch as a doorstop if you can't sell it. So this is opportunity for that. There's also individuals. They represent people have bought watches from me. I bought them from individuals. That is a lot of people do that. They're into swapping all the time. There's some things you have to know. You got to know who you're selling it to and who you're buying it from. If you're selling it, you want to be sure to get paid, and if you're buying it, you want to be sure it's what they say it is. Some clubs, a Facebook club called Moda is one example. Other ones too. Now, finally, the last one is a criminal and fake. You have fake Rolexes are famous, okay, and they're getting better and better at it. So you don't want to go to buy anything from anybody who has a fake anything. If they got fake, and I say Rolex is going to be a fake anything, really, fake Patek Philippe, fake, you name it. They also have what are called Franken watches. These are watches that they take different parts from broken watches and put together something that works, but I don't know, they're not necessarily criminal if they tell you what they're made from. Then there's smuggled watches. These are watches that are smuggled into the country to avoid paying customs. The United States, you don't have to do that too much because we have such a low customs. It's something like 1.5% for watches. I don't know why it's so low, but I'm glad it is. Other countries, you'll get hit with this giant VAT. I think it's like 25% in a lot of European countries. And finally, there are the stolen watches. And what you can do on that, when I bought my 2FP Journes, I got it from a guy who had a little secondary market on 47th Street in New York. I went down to the FP Journes store and said, this thing okay? Is it on your stolen records? And they checked it and everything was fine. So it's especially on expensive watches, you got to check to see if they're stolen. Okay, now given these three markets, the ones we're going to talk about are primarily the secondary market. Well, we're going to start though with something from the primary market. And this is starting online. So let's get going on watches for starting a watch collection. Each watch will be under 1,000. This first one is a Tissot Sideral S Powermatic 80S. I like the Powermatic because basically what they do, I like watches that have a lower frequency, under 4 hertz. The reason for that is that you're not grinding the parts as much. So this is one, what they did, that was a 24, the base movement is a ETA caliber 2824-2, very popular, widely used, inexpensive movement. Now, it runs normally at 24,000, but they wanted to add some more hours, and so they slowed it down to 21,600 or 3 hertz. That's one of the reasons I like it. Also for a sports watch, this is going to have different groupings, and this is a sports group. And this one, and this is from the manufacturer, this is full retail price. And for a sports watch, it's got a lot of things I like. It's got a dome, scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, and on the front and the back, and you can see the back of it. It's water resistance up to 300 meters. That's 900 feet, more or less. That's a lot. It has super luminova, and so you can, in the dark, you can see it down the lower right-hand corner. You can see it. Now this one retails for $9.95. I can tell you right now that after a year, get one that's a year or so older, and you can find them a lot less than that on the secondary market. But this one you can buy under $1,000. Nice watch, I think. Now, the next kind of watch is a travel watch. This is a travel watch is a watch where you're going to be going through more than one time zone. They're usually referred to as GMT watches, but really what they are, they're dual time zone watches. This one is called the Frederick Constant Classic GMT. GMT stands for Greenwich Mean Time, and it's usually indicated that, oh, this is, you can set one of the times at Greenwich Mean Time and the other one to local time. Maybe for pilots that's useful, something called Zulu time, but for the most part, these watches, you can set it, like if I go to Europe, I'll have it on the New York time zone, Eastern time zone, so I can know what time it is here at home if I want to call someone at home. When I'm in, let's say, France, I can take a look at the time, make sure it's not 3 o'clock in the morning here. So now, with this particular watch, I noticed that some of them were in quartz. Okay, now, at least for this kind of collection, you don't want a quartz watch. You can get them; they're a lot cheaper. But all of the watches talking about are ones that are either hand wound or automatic. This one's automatic, so just the movement of your arms. There's no battery to mess up the already roughed up environment. Now, this one is $805. This was the absolute lowest I found. A company called World of Luxury. Again, looking around, shop around, you'll do better. You won't pay as much for exactly the same watch. Now, for a chronograph, I'm not a chronograph fan, primarily because they mess up the dial with a lot of sub-dials, and plus the fact that I really don't have a lot of use for it. However, they're very popular, and so it makes sense to have one in a beginner's collection. Now, this one is a Mito, and the MSRP is $1,920, but the offer, or the amount that they're charging at Joma Shop, was $739. Now, this has got a lot going for it. It's got what's called day date. They show you the day of the week and the date, and so you get a lot of watch for not too much money. I mean, certainly $1,920. It's almost $2,000, and here you get it for only $739. That's what I'm talking about. The secondary market. Mito is a decent brand. The base movement is they call it the Mito 1320. I don't know how much work that Mito did on it, but the Valjoux 7750 is a nice movement, so that's why I recommended it. Now, you may or may not need a dress watch. If you're going to a lot of things, you can also sort of look at it as a date watch. You want to get dressed up and look nice. Probably one that I would recommend, and again, this is something that there's a lot of them in quartz, but we don't want quartz in our mechanical collection. This one I found, the Modavo Museum Classic. Now it's a steel watch, but it's got a gold tone, so it looks. I don't think you're not trying to fool anyone. You're trying to simply get something that looks nice for a formal occasion. $914. Caliber is ETA 2824-2. That's at this price range. You're going to find a lot of movements at that price. Now, the final one. Again, this is for beginners collection. What I call a daily beater. Now, this is something that you can wear just all the time. Yeah, you throw it on in the morning and off you go. This is a German watch called the Damasco DS30 Submarine Steel. Now, submarine steel, it doesn't say stainless steel. It said this thing is the hulls of subs. This is tough kind of steel. Again, you have the 2824 movement. This is a Swiss movement, but it's a German watch. You're going to find that in a lot of German watches. Some of the really best watches have their own manufactured movements, but the great majority you'll find ETA movements of some sort, or Solita. This one it's got a self-winding mechanical movement, so you can wind it up and forget about it because your movement's going to keep it wound. 4 hertz, very standard. Like I said, I prefer the lower ones, but this is a good one. Now this one's got good shock proof, and it's got anti-magnetic features to it. They have something called DIN, and they have numbers. These are standard quality settings for it, and so the 8308 for the shock proof and the 8309 for the it's really non-magnetic effect. Magnetic field really mess your stuff up. It's got a date at 3 o'clock, and it's got a second hand, a big yellow second hand, and the date number. The reason I selected this one, some of them have white second hands and white date things. Yellow, I think you can see it at a glance a little easier. This is the manufactured retail suggested retail price is $9.86 again. Finding these at a lower price, you can do it, but you really have to search for it, and you have to know where to search. Anyway, so those are the suggestions I have for a beginner getting into watch collection. Highly recommend using the secondary markets, and the most important thing is learn as much as you can about watches. Like to hear your comments, and this is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. Until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.